Okay, here we go. We are going through the New Testament in chronological order. Now, it's important here, chronological order, because we want to understand the chapter we're in, 2 Corinthians chapter 7. We need to understand the chronology a little bit because it starts again, right, with Jesus coming and Jesus dying and resurrecting from the dead, ascending into heaven. The church is born in Acts chapter 2. And some years later, 15 years later or so, the Apostle Paul becomes an apostle. He becomes an apostle. Now he gets saved, but it'll be quite a while before he becomes an apostle, a sent one, where he's sent out from the church that he was attending, the church at Antioch, the one that he was in fellowship with, and they send him out and he starts some churches. And one of them that he starts is in Corinth. And we've said already that, Paul, we have at least 9 churches that Paul seems to have started. And this is the 6th letter that he writes. But in this chapter, we're going to find that there's another letter. So here's the interesting thing about chronology and why the chronology is important. So the Apostle Paul starts the church in Corinth. He stays there for 18 months. Then he leaves. And what it appears is, and he ends up in Ephesus. He ends up going back to Antioch. He goes to Ephesus, but he visits them at some other point, right? And when he visits them, it seems that there's some kind of maybe public confrontation where the Apostle Paul feels that like he was just totally mistreated, that he was accused, and that the church there didn't stand up for him. The church that he led everybody to Christ in, and he made disciples out of them. And so Paul leaves, and it was apparently the visit was painful. Think about this. These are believing Christians in the Apostle Paul, and he visits them, and they have this very sort of painful visit, this very painful misunderstanding. And Paul writes him another letter, and we'll see this letter here, but we don't have the letter that he wrote. We don't have the letter. And what seems to happen is it cools down. Because a lot of times things just cool down. And we have an enemy who wants to divide us and wants to confuse us. So let's read chapter 7 and see with that chronology a little bit, if it makes a little bit more sense. Started the church, ends up coming back, painful visit, painful letter. He doesn't want to come back again, but he writes this letter and he hears from his buddies that are there that, they're all like good now. So let's read it and see if we can understand this chapter in that light. Chapter 7. Therefore, we have these promises, dear friends, even though they've turned against them, you're dear friends. So let's purify ourselves from everything that contaminates body and spirit, perfecting holiness out of reverence for Christ. So, because we love Jesus, let's just keep being holy and stuff happens to us. And, what can you do? Make room for us in your hearts. Make room for us in your hearts. We haven't wronged anybody. We haven't corrupted anybody. We haven't exploited anybody. I do not say this to condemn you. I have said before that you have such a place in our hearts that we would live or die with you. We love you guys. So open up your hearts because we love you. It might sound familiar to situations, we've been in before, maybe situations you're going through. I've spoken to you with great frankness, and I take pride in you, and I'm greatly encouraged in all of you, in all of our troubles. My joy knows no bounds. So even in the midst of trouble, even in the midst of betrayal, even in the midst of understanding, we can have joy. And our joy comes from Jesus. For when we came to Macedonia, we had no rest, but we were harassed at every turn. Outside things, harassed. Conflicts on the outside and fears within. What a way to live. All kinds of craziness. This is the life of an apostle. But it might be your life as well. Just trouble on the outside and fears on the inside. The Apostle Paul had fears. Yeah, he had fears. But God, yes, but God who comforts the downcast comforted us by the coming of Titus. So Titus came, we were downcast, we're depressed, but they're apostles preaching the gospel. And this is their mental state. This is their emotional state. And not only by his coming, but also the comfort you had given him, that you were like good to him. You were good to Titus. And now we've connected with him again. And he told us about your longing for me, your deep sorrow, your ardent concern for me, so that my joy was greater than ever. He came back and he said, that you guys, you really did still love me. You still liked me. You wanted to see me again. For even if I caused you sorrow by my letter, what letter? Because we have 1 Corinthians, we have 2 Corinthians that we're looking at now, and now there's another letter. And this is part of the conflict that happened was between his visit and the letter, and whoever confronted him, and the church didn't stand up for him. Even if you were caused sorrow by my letter, I do not regret it. Wow. So I don't regret sending the letter. He said, though I did regret it. I did regret it because I see that it hurt you, but only for a little while. So it's hurtful, but only for a little while. But yet I'm happy, not because you were made sorry, but because your sorrow led you to repentance. So, I wish I didn't send it, but then, I wished I did, and I'm glad that I did, because it really helped bring about some change. For you became sorrowful as God intended, and so you were not harmed in any way. Godly sorrow brings repentance that leads to salvation and leaves no regret. Godly sorrow. But worldly sorrow brings death. This is kind of, what happened when Esau traded his birthright. Right? He was sorrowful, but he wasn't repentant. He was just sorry that he lost what he could have maybe had. But it wasn't real godly. It was just, oh man, I can't have that anymore. See what godly sorrow has produced in you. With earnestness, what eagerness to clear yourself. So you guys did wrong me, but you cleared yourself. What indignation, what alarm, what longing, what concern, what readiness to see justice done. At every point, you proved yourself to be innocent in this matter. Well, maybe we can put this to sleep. So even though I wrote to you, it was neither on account of the one who did the wrong, somebody wronged him, nor on account of the injured party, but rather before God you could see for yourselves how devoted to us you are. And by this we're all encouraged. They had a falling out. They had some difficulty. They had some disagreement. In addition to our own encouragement, we were especially delighted to see how happy Titus was, because his spirit has been refreshed by you. He enjoyed the time with you. And he came back and said, we're all in love with each other. Let's put this behind us. Let's just live for the Lord and live joyfully. I had boasted to him about you guys, and you've not embarrassed me. But just as everything we said to you was true, so our boasting to you to Titus has proved to be true as well. We were saying you're going to love it when you go there. And he did. And his affection for you is all the greater when he remembers that you were all obedient, receiving him with fear and trembling. And I'm glad that I can have complete confidence in you, so that things getting straightened out. But this is a wild scene. These are Christian people, the church in Corinth, that turned against Paul and publicly had some kind of, public confrontation that turned really, really nasty. And then Paul, from the visit and the letter, and then these other guys come in and they're saying, man, it was like bad. It was bad, a misunderstanding. And, we're sorry and we love you guys and we love Paul and we can't wait to see you. God works it out. God works it out. Hey, so bless you guys. And my sense is that some of us have some things that we would like for God to work out. So God, work it out and turn it around. Please, I've been listening to that song, God, Turn It Around. God, turn it around. Hey, bless you guys, and may God turn it around for you.